Time now to turn our attention to the international newspapers. For that, we're joined by press reviewer Diptika Lohan. Diptika, going to start this time in China and more censorship stories.
That's right. That Chinese firewall came into effect on Tuesday and effectively allows police to censor online speech and force internet service providers to hand over user information. It's really being seen in the press today as the nail in the coffin of the internet democracy that Hong Kong enjoyed previously. As The Guardian notes here, the prospect of, quote, Beijing-style internet control is worrying for citizens, for activists and businesses in Hong Kong, and we're already seeing the effect that this national security law is having there in Hong Kong. Major tech companies like Facebook and Google and Microsoft and Twitter have so far refused to process these information requests from the Chinese government until they say they've reviewed the law. And in fact, the state-run Chinese paper, the Global Times today, reacts to that, wondering in this article here what freedom of expression means to the U.S. The writer saying here, Facebook and Twitter suspended hundreds of pro-China accounts last year for, quote, posting evidence of how radical rioters in Hong Kong had damaged the city. So this writer really spinning it in a very different way, those protests in Hong Kong. For this writer, Western tech companies have surrendered to U.S. geopolitics.
Okay, well, let's move to the US now, and there an anti-Semitism controversy has broken out in the world of sports.
Yeah, that's right. It started with the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver DeSean Jackson, who shared two posts on Instagram earlier this week in which he posted an anti-Semitic message and attributed it to Hitler and expressed admiration for Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, whose discourse has been widely condemned as anti-Semitic. Now, those messages have since been deleted, and the footballer has profusely apologized. But then the New York Daily News reports a former NBA player and media personality, DeSean Jackson, who you see in this picture here, who was at the forefront of demanding, police reforms after George Floyd's death. Well, he backed the footballer's comments, saying he was speaking the truth. The paper today offers some reminders about what the Nazis did to the Jewish people during the Holocaust, and really slamming Jackson's glaring anti-Semitism and ignorance. Now, there's an interesting sort of counterpoint. A Jewish football sports writer has offered his perspective in another article. In it, he says the simple solution would be to fire the footballer who was behind those Instagram posts, but especially if his comments are indicative of his true beliefs. But if it's just ignorance, the right move would be to educate him on the weight and responsibility of his actions as a duty to him, but also, because he's a senior player, as a duty to those who look up to him in the team.
Indeed, his fans. Let's stay on the theme of sports now. Australia has lost a world champion snowboarder, something that is making headlines there today.
Yeah, it's a really sad story. Alex Pullin was Australia's flag bearer at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics. He'd won his first snowboarding title at the age of 23. He died due to a suspected shallow water blackout while spearfishing on the Gold Coast yesterday. The cruel sea claims a kind soul. That's how the Daily Telegraph puts it, of the two-time world champion on its front page.
Sad news, but let's turn to something perhaps lighter to finish with, Dipti. Finally, the holy grail of hookup apps, Tinder, is testing out a new video chat feature.
Yeah, call it a sign of our times. Video chat has become very popular, very handy during our global lockdown as well. Well, as we realize that right now being at home is probably safer and social distancing is really our mantra now, Tinder has started letting users experiment with virtual video dating for its users around the world. It's not the first dating app to do so, but it does signal a growing safety preference by online daters to add things like phone calls or video dates before they actually meet the person in real life as a face-to-face date.
I'd find that quite intense, though, because I find the Zoom talks and all of those online
very intense.
Quite intense. You can't get distracted about what's going on. There's nothing else to spark conversation.
It's even more daunting than being in face-to-face, I think.
Well, yeah, because you can comment on what's happening.
There's no distractions.
Exactly. Rather than me. Diptika Lohan, thanks a lot for the look at the international papers. Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it for this edition. Do take care.